Okay, so to get it going, I'm Carrie. I'm with the Benton County Democrats neighborhood leader team, along with Linda Ramsey and Carol Truba and Nancy.
And I am Nancy. I am Carrie's counterpart in Lynn County, here with Mark Leonard, um, Brenda Sterner, Steve Harbert, and Susan, who then will kind of tell us what she's seen in the chat. And I think she may have another question.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes me feel very happy to be in Oregon because people listed a lot of our Oregon legislators, DeFazio, Merkley, several people, Wyden, David Gomberg, Dan Rayfield, all outstanding people in my estimation. Other people mentioned were AOC. Several people said Bernie. Zoran Mamdani, the new guy who won the primary in New York. Obama, Liz Warren. Three people said Paul Wellstone. Someone, I don't know, some of the younger people may not know. He was a wonderful guy from Minnesota who died in a plane crash back in the 70s, maybe. I don't know what year. Anyway, somebody else said Sarah Bristol, the past mayor of Grants Pass. And then I said, and a couple of other people I think chimed in on President Jimmy Carter. And the question we want people to think about and answer in the chat, or if you want to speak up about it, is what is it about that elected official that you chose that makes you trust them? And I would say about Jimmy Carter, I felt like he was a very real person who was not led by the quest for power. He simply gave his life in service, and his ego was not part of that. So that's what I liked about Jimmy Carter. So anybody else who wants to chime in, feel free. Just unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
You can raise your hand, you can speak up, whatever moves you. Cindy.
I said Paul Wellstone. There are so many, you're right, more local people, but he was the first one to come to my mind because he stood for what he believed in no matter what. And he had such integrity that even Republicans in the Senate admired him, which is interesting because he was so progressive. So he was just, he had a big heart and he followed his conscience.
Wow, Jenny.
I said AOC and Bernie because their vote always matches their rhetoric.
And when I think of Bernie, I think when Bernie first appeared on the scene, he had a 10-point plan, and it's his plan. And he doesn't just say what he thinks people want to hear. He talks about this is what I stand for, and it doesn't change, which yeah. Brenda.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Peter DeFazio. He was always available. He listened. He would show up. He would show up even to union strikes on the strike line, and he would keep us informed. And he just had values, and he voted his values, and they happened to match ours. And he worked so hard for us.
Thank you. Carrie.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, one of the things I really took away from Paul Wellstone was his sort of phrase, we all do better when we all do better. It just so simple, so clear, and so principled. And one of the things I just love about Elizabeth Warren, when she was running for the nomination in 2020, remember her saying that one of her top priorities was fairness and fighting corruption. And that's what she does. And same, kind of what everybody else is saying, her votes, her rhetoric, the things she champions match what she says. She doesn't say something and then do something else. So
Thank you. Susan.
I just was thinking, I noticed that no one said Joe Biden, and I feel like I have to say his name after the many decades of service he's given to our country. And he wasn't perfect. None of our legislators are, but he did such wonderful things as a president. I mean, he really made so much progress. It makes it even sadder to see what's happening now. But I just felt like we gotta say Joe's name.
Thank you. And when I think, somebody said Dan Rayfield, and I'm going to echo Brenda that if you've been a neighborhood leader for a while, you know, Dan was always available to us. You know, and we asked candidates to come and speak, and Dan was the one you could just count on, right? And I remember when the redistricting happened, and we said, would you come? It wasn't an election. We said, would you come explain to us what it is? And he came and did that, and it was just totally great. When he was speaker, you know, he had like lots of other things to do. Wow. Anyone else? Okay, and Lisa, I assume it was you who mentioned the mayor of Grants Pass.
Yes, I loved her because she truly, truly cared about people. Her heart was in the right place, and she always wanted to do the right thing, and she always listened.
So listen, right? And be clear about what it is you stand for, and don't just
Yes.
go with whatever. Don't be strategic, but be true to your values and have values, right? Okay. Thank
Yes, and she was tough as nails too to be named to be a Democrat mayor in Grants Pass. She was tough and just let all this stuff just roll right off her shoulders. It was amazing.
Wow. Yes, Grants Pass. Okay. So we're gonna just spend a little time looking at slides and then we'll come back to conversation. Let me do this. So our agenda, welcome, and what's on our minds. And we're going to start with some quotes that really, to us, captured what it is that's on our minds, your team. And then very brief timeline looking ahead, because we always realize, those of us who are total nerds, not everybody has the election timeline years ahead in their mind. And then preparing for what we hope for. And we're going to start looking at how do we both win elections and promote the vision and the values of the country we want, which seems counterintuitive at this time of extreme defensiveness, but in another way makes a lot of sense. And that's what our starting quotes talk about.
The lesson of Mamdani's campaign is that it is not good enough just to be critical of Trump and his destructive policies. We have to bring forth a positive vision and an analysis of why things are the way they are. The future of the Democratic Party will not be determined by its current leadership. It will be decided by the working class of this country. Increasingly, people understand that our political system is corrupt and that billionaires should not be able to buy elections. They understand that we should not have an unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality, that we should not be the only wealthy country not to guarantee health care for all, that we should not deny young people the right to a higher education because of their income, that we should not have a major crisis in affordable housing, that we should not have a minimum wage that is a starvation wage, that we should not allow corporations to illegally prevent union organizations, and much, much more. And of course, that's Bernie Sanders just a couple days ago.
Thank you.
Is it even possible to set our country on a course for redemption? How can we come to terms with the fact that half our fellow citizens embrace cruelty, racism, ignorance, and cultism over democracy? How will we navigate the violence and cruelty of these times and protect ourselves, our families, and our integrity? If you are not asking those questions today, you haven't been paying attention. For the past 3 years, I have also been focused on a different set of questions. If America as we know it cannot be saved, and we are truly in the abyss, what is the new America we can create when we emerge from this dark place? What is our vision for that new America? What must we do now to lay the foundation for its creation? The quote from Sherilyn Ifill, I question America. It's a short quote from a much longer piece that she wrote on the 4th of July. You can find it easily.
And the final questions in that really are what we all feel. We will benefit greatly in many ways from focusing on at this time. But first, a quick look at the timeline. So, July, that is now through the end of this year. Typically, we take a break if we don't have a November election, and some towns may have a, single issue initiative election in November, but otherwise, it's going to be a pretty quiet time. But at our last Zoom, which was the June 1st, I think, debrief of the primary, you all said, let's Zoom once a month because this is a community and it really it has value for us. And so what your team did was think about how can we use these Zooms in these months in a way that both prepares us for our work in 2026 and prepares us with energy and hope to go forward. That's the vision part. So February, that is, if you've been a neighborhood leader, we try to do in-person events where we launch for the year and the ideas have some fun. So look forward to that. Then starting in March, we're moving towards the primary, and we will be meeting the candidates that are going to be on the primary ballot during that time. In April, we get ready to do our work. That is, we do a refresher on how does neighborhood leader work, the nuts and bolts, what are the materials, and then in May, more or less, we have 3 weeks when ballots are there and we canvass our neighbors and try to give them really good information about what's on the ballot so they vote for everything that's on their primary ballot. And then from July to September, we county parties open our campaign offices. We tend to, if we want to, canvass for the candidates we've endorsed. And we also do Zooms to meet the candidates that will be on the November ballot. And then again in October, we get ready to get out the vote. And then we have 3 weeks before November 3rd where we do that. We canvass our neighbors. So you'll get these slides. Don't take notes. Don't worry. But that's the general gist of it. So we brought this forward because this is the gist of our discussion on June 1st, when we looked ahead and said, what are the things that really we're concentrating on now? And it was networking and coalition building. So spreading our net and our contacts as broadly as possible. We looked at the many places that we neighborhood leaders are already networked. We looked at where do we fit in? And what we said, and this is for people who are new, we fit in because the particular work we do when ballots arrive, we increase voting by astronomically. And we have shown that, particularly in local elections, we can win elections with our neighborhood leader work. So that's our particular niche in this bigger coalition. And then next steps, and we just talked about that. So we're gonna stop now, and this is really the meat of what we hope to talk about. What's our vision for the country we want? Yeah, I know it's Sunday evening and you're looking for live entertainment, but now you are the live entertainment. So just thinking about not what's the status quo that we're hoping to get back to, but I mean, that may be what you really want. But if you think about what is the country you really want, anything that comes to mind.
Am I on or not?
Yes.
Totally.
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest things we need to do is figure out a way to get young people involved so that they understand that their government is theirs, not all of us gray hairs. And I don't know how we do that, but it seems like outreach maybe to the colleges. We have a lot of colleges around, to high schools. A lot of kids, they can register at 16, they can vote at 18. And, a lot of them are going to be voting next November. And it feels like they don't know how important it is, although I think they're becoming aware, especially with the immigration. But I think that's something that we can do and get people who will be on our value stream, who don't care what anyone's sexuality is and want to see everybody have enough to eat because they live that experience of those things not going well for them. So I'd like to see some way for us to reach out to those populations. And that's not exactly a vision, but I think it'll get us there.
No, but the vision is that we have engagement from the broadest part of the population, including young people.
Exactly.
That if young people engage, that what happens will reflect what they want to have happen.
Exactly.
And we totally see that with young candidates. I mean, we can all name a few examples. I mean, AOC is an example. Maxwell Frost is an example, right? Mamdani is an example of, young people with vision step up and young people become energized.
Exactly.
Great, super point. Thank you. Domi, great to see you.
Hi, I'm visiting a friend. We've been friends for 50 years. It's been just wonderful. Um, I just want to see a real safety net, a real complete safety net, universal basic income, universal health care, free education. We can do all of those things. That's only a few of them, but everything. I want everything. That's it.
And would it be putting words in your mouth to say we look at the enormous wealth in our country in a new way?
Yes, thank you. That is part of it.
Oh, fabulous. Anyone else?
Two hands up. Cindy?
The list is so long, but the first thing that came into my mind when you asked that question of what kind of country would I like is one where we view each other as neighbors again, and that we have decent, well-mannered, respectful conversation, and that people, I know that maybe we're living in a different time and it'll never be a way it was when we were growing up in terms of that. But I think we could definitely get back some great basic qualities in terms of how we relate to one another. So I'd like to see that happen.
Thank you. Okay, who, Susan?
Susan Heath, yeah.
Well, this kind of involves getting young people more involved. That's giving them something that they want to vote for. And I think that in Oregon, we have an opportunity to both use our supermajority in the legislature for good and get some bold legislation passed, not just minimum stuff like what happened in the previous long session, and show that we are not going to do whatever Trump decides. States like Oregon are blue and really have to be strong and not allow things like ICE to come in and kidnap our neighbors. And so we need our leadership to lead us in how to do that. And I think that if younger voters in particular realized that our leadership was out there fighting that, which I know Attorney General Rayfield is involved in a lot of lawsuits against Trump's administration, but that sort of thing compounded. And the other thing is for the 26th ballot in particular, there will hopefully one and or definitely one and hopefully another constitutional amendment on the ballot. And the Equal Rights Amendment one, which is close, is for gender equity. And I think that young people will really respond. So when Democrats get kind of a bad name based on what happens nationally, if we can change our constitution and really protect our people, that would show that we care. And I think that's something that neighborhood leaders can be involved in. And also the environmental rights amendment that I'm working on, I think that young people will also respond really well to that. And it explicitly includes children and future generations. So there will be a lot of circulating of petitions for both of those. And we can, with the ERA, we can get involved right now. With the environmental rights amendment, it's going to take a little while. But if we can circulate those petitions and get all those signatures, get them on the ballot, and then use those to incentivize people on the issues as much as on the particular candidates. If people don't trust individual candidates as much, but they do want this stuff in our Constitution, I think they'll turn out.
Thank you. And Sarah, the Equal Rights Amendment is a great example when we talk about
there's the Environmental Rights Amendment.
Environmental rights. When we talk about that, the vision bubbles up from the people, from grassroots, and then it directs the leaders with the will of the people, because that was a movement that started purely grassroots. And the leaders just couldn't get themselves together to refer it. If I think those of us who are neighborhood leaders for a while know that the two ways that ballot initiatives get on our ballot, one is the legislature can refer it, which means no petitions have to be signed. It just gets on the ballot. The other way is hundreds of people collect hundreds of thousands of signatures and work really hard. That has the benefit of engaging and educating people. It also has the requirement of being a whole lot of work for people who are doing a whole lot of work and other things. But it's just an excellent example of the people saying, okay, leaders, you couldn't get it done. We're going to get it done. And when I think about the legislature and Congress, it to me, that really makes what we're talking about resonate. When we in the towns and communities and local groups say, this is what we want. We don't want business as usual. We don't want a country in which people worry, parents worry that their children won't have enough to eat or a safe place to sleep in this country. We don't want that. We want a country where people are safe and people can get what they need. And if our representatives' assemblies can't make that happen, they need our help. They need our will and engagement. Okay, that was my piece. Carrie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, this is, a little more pie in the sky, big vision, aspirational, but I would very much like to see a future America where we are much more of a democracy than we have been in my lifetime, with money being out of it, without the Senate, without things like the DCCC and the DSCC, where people's votes, people have, where it's easy and inviting for people to vote. People's votes actually are counted and matter, and people have confidence that the people they are electing are going to be serving them. Where people pick their representatives, the representatives don't pick their voter base. And I think that quote from Sherrilyn Ifill kind of makes you think big. Things are going to get really crappy, then it's like ripping a house. How far do we rip it down before we remodel it? In some places, we may need to go to the studs and get the termites out. And for me, that's money. So that's just one.
Perfect. But this all comes together. Susan, then Paula.
Two things. I wanted to read a little comment that came on the chat. Someone said they saw on Blue Sky that after Mamdani's win, over 2,000 people joined the Run for Something program. And I just think that's a really impressive statistic. The other thing I was going to say is that we have been seeing lately that we can't really trust the legacy media. And I also see all kinds of new fabulous journalists coming up on Substack and Blue Sky and other places. And I think we need to figure out how to make sure that people are seeing the real news, because I know a lot of these people who don't support what we care about are not getting the real news. And so if we can find ways, particularly as we talk about appealing to younger people, like videos with a short message are much better than some long piece. So figuring out how to use media to reach people in a broader way, I think is important. Thanks.
Thank you. Paula. Paula, where'd you go? Okay, Paula's unmuting. We can wait. There you go.
To add to Susan's, Mondani did that. That's how he won his campaign, was by using the social media platforms that young people are listening and participating in. But my vision is to be able to reach out to our non-affiliated and non-democratic neighbors, and be able to hold conversations and support other kinds of other types of candidates that aren't necessarily democratic candidates. How can we support people who still hold our values but don't have the label of Democrats? I would love to see our independents our independent voters be voting with us, not necessarily changing parties, but voting with us? How do we reach out to them and bring them to the table? Because I think they are not at the table. They are holding back and they are watching.
So, Paula, I think that that's our point in saying, let's start by talking about our values, our vision.
Right.
Because it's the vision that we share.
Yes.
And when we move away from labels
Yes.
and know what our vision is, that's how we have those conversations, right?
Right.
And that, it's the one-on-one version of what Susan's talking about, that when you say to people, this is what we want, not what someone else told you what we want, right? And I'm kind of laughing the thing about young people in Mamdani, because my son's in New York, and it occurs to me, I don't know that we call him a young person anymore, but there you go. But he was out campaigning every weekend, and he was actually out campaigning for his city councilor, who is also Muslim and was the incumbent, and then a candidate with gazillions of dollars ran against her, and they pumped in so much money into this one city council. You guys in New York, they have like 55 city councilors. Whoa. But this is just one. And she won 70% of the vote because it was the same thing. And I think it translated from Cuomo, people just saying, no, you can't buy this election.
Yeah.
The fact that you're trying to buy it pisses us off so much. We're all voting. So, yeah. Okay, Susan.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things about that is not just saying what we want, but working on projects like that, like the volunteers getting out there, and like the neighborhood leader program here and all, because there is that other part of our own party that sometimes that's who we have to fight back against. Like someone was saying, the DCCC and the money that comes through that, and so we have to be doing enough and getting our message out, like Susan was saying, so that people realize that when we talk about the Lynn County or Benton County dams, we're talking about people who are actually taking action and making differences in people's lives. And that has happened in with local politics. Like here in Albany, where we flipped the city council. And, that can really make a difference and show people the actions and all, not just the vision, but also the actions that have been and can be done.
Yes. And okay, so editorial comment. Mark's hand's up. I'll say it after Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a couple of the comments in the chat and thinking about the discussion. Formal coalitions are great, but informal stuff is good too. With all this stuff that is happening top down, the passing of this big ugly bill, all the stuff they're doing with this money they're throwing at the immigration stuff, I think we need to be visible. We're doing weekly and monthly protests. We've been going very regularly to our Friday protests here in Albany. They're having them also over in Lebanon and Corvallis. When people show up, we talk to them, and they are not necessarily Dems. They don't know much about our party, but they're interested. And we had somebody this last week who a couple showed up who have been seeing us regularly and keep meaning to come, and then they finally did, and they loved it. We can talk to them about this stuff. We are going to need to be visible. Those of us who can protest are going to need to keep doing this. And I think that's also really important. And it's a way to reach people one-on-one.
And so here's my editorial. Yes, absolutely. And my editorial comment, Casey, your first comment, so we always have way too many quotes and don't want to like, have your eyes rolling back and into your heads at the beginning of the Zoom. But I am now going to show you the quote that we didn't do this time that really looks at that to me is part of what we reclaim as patriotism. Okay. So at a time when the future of America may seem bleak to many, we must harness the sense of positivity and possibility that comes with America's identity as a nation of immigrants and make it central to a revitalized patriotism that can help mobilize our fellow Americans on behalf of those who are being targeted. So that idea of instead of going on the defensive, just reject it and say, no, this is what makes us great. This is patriotism, right? That we come from so many places and come together to make this country. Yeah. So the one thing that worries me is that we all go into defensive mode, right? So the idea here is let's shift our frame and just think about the ways that we can be bold in the moment of peril. Okay, Carrie.
Yeah, it was great conversation in the chat about that. Thanks, Casey, for getting that conversation going. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I got into a little tiff with somebody on Nextdoor about 4th of July. And I said, to me, I was raised to believe that patriotism is not waving a flag. Patriotism is working to make liberty and justice for all, no exceptions, to be more true. And and that's to me, that's what a patriot does, is work for that fundamental American value. And so I really appreciate all the stuff with the flag and, not redefining, but reclaiming what patriotism truly is. It's not a narcotic that we wave on the end of a stick, and puff out our chest. It's the work we do to make those highest ideals more true every day.
Narcotic on the end of a stick.
Love that. I love that.
I know. And having just come through narcotics post-surgery, I'm with you. Okay, Susan.
Well, I know we want to move on to talking about how the groups that we are in can work together to make some of these things that we've been talking about happen. And so I want to just give you a little teaser about something that's being planned. I don't have many details yet, but it's pretty exciting. And it is not a defensive kind of thing. The Lynn Benton NAACP, the Benton Indivisible, and some of the local Progressive Democrats for America are getting together to talk about doing an event in September, date not set, about democracy. We're not sure what to call it yet because we don't want to just preach to the choir. We want to reach out to people who are getting concerned about what is going on and how is that going to affect their lives here in Oregon, and what are the things that we need to be aware of, and how can we work together against those things. So as I know more and find out more about this event as it comes together, I will certainly make sure that we all know about it. But maybe some others of you have some ideas of things you've been doing with groups that you are in coalition with that have some good ideas or have some motion happening.
Or simply, how does what we're talking about relate to the other organizations that you're participating in and thinking about? So that's the NAACP or Indivisible, Good Trouble. Two people raised their hands. Cindy and Susan. I didn't see who got there first, so you choose.
Go ahead, Susan.
I was going to say, you go ahead. I've been talking a lot.
Oh, I would like to announce along these lines, we're Third Act has been planning, we've been in planning for a month or so, a celebration, something very positive, and that is the sun, solar energy. And we're going to have a solar festival in Central Park. So I wanted you to know this, Susan, it's September 21. So please don't use that date for your democracy thing. But anyway, it'll be, yeah, it's growing and we've got quite a few vendors and whatnot. So we're hoping, well, we're gonna have a solar children's hour, we're gonna have a solar cooking demonstration, etc. So lots of ways to find out how you can get assistance, financial assistance to get solar. So put that on your calendars, please.
Fantastic. And if people don't know what Third Act is, you want to just briefly say?
Sure. Third Act is an organization started by Bill McKibben, primarily about climate. And in the last 3 years, we've added democracy. So those are our two primary goals. It's for people who are in the third act of their life. They're usually around 60 or above. And so they have a lot of skills, resources, and time, many times, to work on making the nation a better country.
Thank you. So, okay, Susan, we'll let Lisa, then you.
So I'm part of the Good Trouble Corvallis group, and it's a very small group of women, seems to be like a small group that are pretty active. And we are divided up into focus groups. And there's a food group, and they have a food table at every protest, and they collect canned foods and then bring that to the local food pantries. They're doing a great job with that. And then we do a sign table at the protests and give people materials to make their own signs. And then I'm part of the LGBTQ plus group. And we did a Sunday, I think it was last Sunday, we did art in the park where me and one of the other gals just brought art materials to the park and we publicized it on Nextdoor. And we actually had some people come and make junk journals and do some coloring and those kinds of things. So just trying to do little things for our community as much as we can.
So, will you talk about what Good Trouble is?
Well, I joined Good Trouble through Red Wine and Blue. I think it was started through Red Wine and Blue, which is a nationwide thing that women got together and started doing things in their community, and it's kind of spread. Our group has a leader, Pam Castle is our leader, and she sends us out a weekly email kind of informing us of all of the local activities that are going on. So we keep up to speed with everything. And you might know more about it than I do because I was a late joiner in that group. So
No, just that they do a lot of things. They organize. I'm gonna put in the link, Jeannie, so if you want to check them out. It's just Red Wine and Blue and you'll get to it. And they have great speakers. They actually, the first one I ever saw, which was maybe a year ago, was these women who did rural organizing and for elections, and they were phenomenal. So they're just, smart women. Yeah. And so they sponsor groups to start. And so Lisa's in one. Okay, Susan, then Casey.
I just wanted to say one of the things that I've been thinking about too is there are a lot of new groups coming up and all. And I mean, this is kind of on the negative, but it's not really negative. Is why are people, I'm just curious, like in an informal conversation, not like we have to go out and have a survey or anything, why people who are more progressive are not necessarily like some are joining both their local Democratic Party and another organization, but some are only joining, a local organization or something. And I'm just curious why they are not joining the local Democratic Party. I think that could tell us something, but I don't know what.
I'm gonna just venture a moment and then we'll go to Casey. And that's part of it. When I said neighborhood leader, we have a specific role. We win elections. And that's one part of it. And if we're interested in that up bubbling of democracy, I think that's what all this broad spectrum of organizations do. They get people engaged, and then it's if your particular interest is in how that translates into electoral politics, to me, that's what the county parties are for. And I know we do more than that, but in particular, it's that. And so, therefore, that's why this neighborhood leader, the way we do it, is to really be in coalition because it's what makes us the most useful. But when we look at, okay, and when does our rubber hit the road? It's when elections come, right? And then we have that very particular focus.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's people that have more of a specific reason why they choose not to organize with and they're not the people here because we're Democrats, but I'm just wondering if we could learn something from them. And also just to make sure that we're all communicating with each other so that people aren't doing things that other people are already doing and, that type of thing. So we can, pool resources and volunteer time and all of that.
Okay. And
Thank
Casey, you don't have to talk on that topic. We can always get back to it. We can hold thoughts in our heads. You're muted.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I know we were previously talking about, organizations that, other organizations that can kind of help us all build this bubble. And one that I know that's really, or that I've participated in that might be gaining popularity with, Gen Z and younger is Progressive Victory. It's mostly kind of like online, but they've been doing a lot of really good work with like signature gathering, building awareness and stuff like that. And I think it's really been mobilizing like a lot of younger voters. And on the point of younger voters being potentially disillusioned with the Dems, I think that was definitely a thing for sure, and it has been kind of growing. But I think kind of like we were talking about earlier with the Mamdani piece, the push for those people that are already involved to now start, actually running for things and participating in those parties that currently already exist is a huge step, I think, for those generations.
And that is such a great point because that's the other benefit of us being so broadly connected to think about. We know people in those organizations and people who we think could have the heart to run for office, hook them up because what the parties have is the skills and the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And neighborhood leader, for those of us who've been through this, we're really good in helping candidates develop talking points and confidence. I mean, we've seen candidates from primary through election really go from power to power and wow us. Start out a little shaky and then really like find their groove. So good. Thank you. Cindy, I think then Carrie.
I was just gonna say that what was I gonna say? I was gonna respond to Susan's comment. My family, uh, some neighbors, people I'm around, especially young people, and people are so disillusioned with government. They feel like it's so corrupt and that there's, I mean, they've just given up on it. Many people around me. I've had long conversations with my 50-year-old nephew, and he has been involved before, but he's seen the corruption. And so people are very turned off, I think, for that reason.
And so again, to come back to it to say, and we have an opportunity, right? And the question is, will we take that opportunity? And, you know, I think the country depends on us taking that opportunity. And it's work, but you know what? There's just no better work. Carrie.
Yeah, just from some, so anecdotally, people I've spoken with that are very disillusioned, and some even have left the Democratic Party. From them, it is seeing the Democratic Party at the national level, where it is this thing that they're so frustrated with. They only get the view of the National Democratic Party from mainstream media, and they don't see themselves in it. They don't see themselves as having any power, any relevance to it, except for, I mean, the typical thing is, all I know is they text me for money all the time. You know, that is their engagement with the Democratic Party. So it just makes me think of, you know, two things that were mentioned earlier, Mark talking about being visible, and then talking about our values. And when we are either as neighborhood leaders knocking doors, or just in our activist life, or just sitting at the pub, when we can communicate those values, we are doing the work of opening up the possibility of the Democratic Party for those people. And they don't have to be Democrats, but you know, to understand that we are pulling in the direction that they want to go to. So I mean, that question is really great, because it kind of hones back in on, you know, what the power that we have, and the things we can do to kind of use it for everybody's benefit, regardless of whether you put a D on your card or not.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So, I'm trying to pay attention to what people are saying, and I'm not reading the chat. Anybody want to just pull out things that we're seeing in the chat?
There's been a lot of good stuff, but most of it, I think, has been verbalized.
Okay. So, we're this was, you have now had the benefit of, this was what we were wanting to talk about this time. We're gonna, I think, we agreed August 3rd. We said once a month. This is July, right? Yes. So August 3rd is going to be the next one, coincidentally, a Sunday at 6:30. And then what we're going to look at is taking everything we talked about. How do we use that strategically to do just what we're talking about? Communicate, right? How do we bring that message out? And, you know, because people say, when I have conversations, people say, and the idea, we as neighborhood leaders have a lot of, that's our job, to have conversations. So how do we use this in conversations? And I'm going to say this, and then the team's going to have to do it. We'll have some role plays, maybe, about how to do this. In conversations. Steve seems excited. You can be in one. Okay. So anybody else, and people who haven't talked, anybody have anything to say? So, and Carrie, this is optional, but when somebody is brand new at this point, I say, so what do you think?
I'm excited.
Okay. And you're in North Albany.
Benton County.
So Carrie is the person you're going to talk to.
Are you my neighbor?
No, she's your neighborhood leader coordinator for Benton County.
Okay.
And I know I live closer, but she has the database that includes you, and that's how we do it. So
Thank you.
so be sure you do have each other's contact info. Um, and thanks to the person who invited you,
Heather.
Heather. Okay, Heather has two people for the past month. So come on, guys. You know, that's because we think about that. How do we get more people involved in doing this? Okay, I see Jenny and Paula and Carrie. And then we're going to look at things that are coming up, events. So just hang on. Okay, Jenny.
I just want to remind everybody that the platform convention is coming up for the state, and it's a great way to make sure your values are represented by going and having a vote and having a say, and it's really important. So I hope you've all signed up. I don't know if the deadline is over for signing up yet or not.
Not
Well, I
in Lynn
know
County.
in Lynn County, we did a special extension. So if people, suddenly are grabbed and you're in Lynn County, you can talk to Mark. Mark, can they talk to you?
Absolutely. But just to let people know, you do have to be a Democrat.
For 180 days. As of August, whatever, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good reason to be a Democrat.
Right
Yes,
on.
of course.
And this is Jenny talking. And if you have not seen the Lynn County Democrats platform, it is Jenny put together the process that brought us to it, and it is a quick read and it's simply wonderful. It's on our website under more or party or something. Just
Under party,
under
down at the
party.
bottom.
Okay.
Scroll down.
Paula, then Carrie.
So I wanted to just make mention that I think we're going to over here in Lacombe invite our neighbors that are on our neighborhood leader list to the picnic and pie auction. And I'm thinking that maybe some of the neighborhood leaders could reach out to their neighbors to bring them, and maybe we could just like do tables. This is the Lacombe table, this is the North Albany table, and we could meet each other at that table. We could mingle too, but I just kind of
Sounds
flashed
fun.
on that and thought maybe that might be something we could do. Picnic and pie auction is September 14th. Don't forget, I think we start at 4.
And that's in Lynn County, and then there's one in Benton County, and maybe someone knows when that is. Okay, Carrie.
It's okay. I was just gonna, Carrie and I figured it out in the chat, so never mind.
Okay, so now we are up. Okay, I gotta just go through these. Good of the order. So you're in Benton County. This is a reminder. First Thursday every month, room 315 at the courthouse. If you want to talk to Val Hoyle's field rep, this is your opportunity. And after this conversation, it seems like we would all have plenty to say. Okay, weekly honkin' waves that Mark was talking about. Albany, Lebanon. I don't know the Corvallis one, but I do know that if you use that link, you will find most everything that's happening within striking distance of where we are. And it's totally fun. So urge you to check out that link.
Sweet Home is on Thursdays at the courthouse, I believe.
Hey, will you put that in? Oh, I got that in the East, Lynn. Put it in the chat and I'll add it to the slide.
Okay.
It's Flash Mob, right?
Flash
Okay.
mob, yeah.
Good Trouble, East Lynn, Indivisible, not to be confused with Red Wine and Blue Good Trouble. This is John Lewis' 5th anniversary of his death, national action. So in Lynn County, the big action will be July 17th at 5 p.m. at Lebanon. And then some of us are working on, can we do some banner drops, holding up banners at freeway overpasses in Albany. And then Corvallis. Anybody, what's happening on the 17th in Corvallis?
I don't
I
know.
believe there is a courthouse gathering on the 17th. I haven't been able to learn whether it's noon or 5. I think it's at noon.
Okay. I'll try again before I send these out. And then the last but not least, if you are anywhere in Oregon, always consider calling Cliff Bentz, because his votes for these poison pills cost us all money. And it does not matter if we're in his CD or not. He's part of the damage that's being done to our state and communities. Okay. And that's, we have scheduled our, don't ignore that slide. I'll update it. It's August 3rd. Whew. Okay. I think it was those narcotics on the stick. So, good to see everybody. Any last words?
If anybody's interested in contacting the Indivisible group for the banner drop or the Honkin' Waves in Albany, you can get a hold of Bernadette through me. And I just put my email in the chat.
Okay, or anybody can post on Albany Regional Indivisible, so you can find her there too.
That's true. And yes.
Okay, either one. Thank you for putting all that stuff in the chat, and everybody be well. And great conversation. Jeannie, muted.
Just wanted to give you a heads up that you can save the chat, so you can save all of the
absolute
stuff that people have posted.
So to do it, go up to in mine. I go up to the very top, and there are 3 dots, and I click on that, and the first choice is save chat. For some people, it's in the bottom, and it's going to go into your computer in a Zoom file. And you might be shocked to find other things in that file if you've never looked at it, because sometimes it automatically saves. Thank you. Okay, any other last words? They all have value. Okay, take care.
I just saw Jeannie, and that's a Jeannie that was a neighborhood leader a long time ago and moved away.
Moved to Lebanon.
Ah.
And Jeannie and Linda share a last name.
We're distant cousins.
Yes, I'm sure we are.
It could be said probably about most of us. Okay, take care, everyone. Wonderful to see you.